And every time we mention farming, a lot of people build this picture in their mind of just traditional farming, like Clarkson's farm, for example, where you buy a Lamborghini tractor.
So we're saying 40%, 40 grand net profit on around about 2.5 hours a week.
And welcome back to another episode of the Smallholding Revolution podcast. I'm Alan, this is David, and this is Scotty.
Whoop, whoop.
And we love sharing all of our experiences and knowledge to help people just like you find your own freedom or grow your own freedom. That's our slogan, grow your own freedom by acquiring your own agricultural land, developing that land, building your own smallholding farm business.
Or homestead if you're in America.
Or homestead if you're American. And living free, off-grid, self-sufficient, actually sustainable.
Yeah, and regenerative even.
And regenerative. And as I mentioned, one of the things that we encourage you to build is the farming aspect. And every time we mention farming, a lot of people build this picture in their mind of just traditional farming, like Clarkson's farm, for example, where you buy a Lamborghini tractor
For $500,000.
for $500,000.
That's what you do.
Before measuring whether it can get into your shed or not, and then proceed to crash into the roof of your shed. But yeah,
Good old
jokes
Jeremy.
aside, a lot of people look at farming and think big fields, big tractor, loads of animals,
Livestock.
loads of work, up at 3 a.m. in the morning,
Fertilizers,
fertili-
pesticides,
spraying all sorts of stuff,
Poisons.
And that's actually not the truth of farming. Not the whole truth of farming, anyway.
Could be.
It could be.
But there are other aspects, there
Yeah.
are other methods and other styles of farming.
Absolutely. And that's what we really wanted to talk about today. And just to introduce you to a whole world of farming that doesn't require that much knowledge, that much skill, because I can do it. And I can do it. Let's not even. My catchphrase is, if I can't plug it in and it doesn't have coding, I can't figure it out. So growing things that live is something that it's been a learning curve for me, but it's not been as steep as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And we wanted to introduce you guys to a range of things that you can get right into as a newcomer,
as a
aspiring
potential
farmer.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of things, so some of the things we're going to talk about are things that you can do wherever you are, even if you're in a flat, an apartment, you haven't even got any outside space, you don't have a garden or a yard, you can use some of these techniques to get the practice, get some skill, create some food, learn how to grow, and actually improve your health at the same time. And this is one of the pathways to
Great word.
one of the pathways to getting into a small holding or a homestead. And it's always best to have a little experiment. You can do this at pretty much zero risk. So
Because my perception when I started my journey, I read that Field to Farm book, as
Yeah.
I keep on referring back to, in 2010. So definitely read that. And it describes that for your journey, your pathway to taking that field and creating a farm and being able to live there, create your forever home, you need to be functionally needed, as in livestock and needed, but also to pass the financial tests. Okay, so then when I was reading that, I was like, as you said, the perception of, that sounds like hard work. I need livestock to functionally be there, be up at 3 a.m. I need to look after those animals. I don't know how to look after animals. I've been stuck behind a desk for 15 years. You know, how do you breed them? How do you look after them? How do you, inject them? How do you, give them welfare?
Sick,
What happens when they get sick and
ones
everything?
when they escape.
There's so many questions there, which could have stopped my journey straight away. Because of that perception that it is hard work. Then I read the financial piece, and there's a reference there to a manual called is it Nix or Knox? It's John.
Yeah, Nix, is it?
Nix,
Yeah.
the John Nix handbook,
Yeah.
which basically says it gives you the amount of money that you can earn from a particular head of livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is UK
like a
reference.
farming formula.
So it's
It's
a
a
reference.
farming formula.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So if you had 100 cattle, it would it would need this amount of effort, this amount of cost, and you could sell at this amount if you are organic, if you are this, if you are wholesale, if you are trade, if you are consumer, price per kilogram or anything along those lines. And that's where you do the whole old school accountancy. This is how much it costs, this is how much I sold it for, this is how much profit I've got at the end. And then you could do your financial tests. And I was like, again, just raising so many questions. You know, what is the best livestock? What's the best way to look after them? What's the best way to feed them? What's the best way to selling them? You know, there's so many questions, it becomes really, really difficult. Even to get to the financial answers. But fortunately, I read a piece in the Field to Farm piece where it said that if you perform an animal sanctuary on your farm or a rescue, 'cause the idea of chicken rescues really make me happy, and that's what I do now, then the planning authority can take a view on it.
Okay.
All right. So I knew that I wanted to do chicken rescue then because of the journey that brown hens go on is absolutely disgusting, but not for
rescuing battery hens,
rescuing battery hens. So we don't need to deep dive into that right now. But I thought, right, if I do that, then the local planning authority can take a view on that, and that's not as hard as the cattle, the pigs, the sheep, and everything along those lines. And that's what unblocked my decision making in going to start my small holding.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I didn't have that perception, I would have read it and gone, traditional farming's too bloody hard. You know, I wouldn't have got going on this journey.
Yeah.
All right. As it turns out, that phrase has got me into a lot of trouble. Cost me a lot of money because of the local planning authority just basically doesn't take that into consideration at all.
Oh, wow.
They want the functional and financial tests. That's it. Hard line.
Okay.
Right? So I went on this really hard journey and battle and made loads of mistakes and cost loads of money, planning applications refused and everything.
Yeah.
Until I met David.
Okay.
And David started introducing me to these new concepts.
All right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
we could do that. That could plant into that. That could dovetail nicely into this.
Yeah.
And then a synergistic business model arose where everything is helping each other out survive. So you have a very efficient economic ecosystem.
Yeah.
But each component is essentially low effort, high yield. And that's the recipe
and
here.
high value.
And high value.
Yeah.
And that's the recipe for the small holding revolution pathway.
Yeah.
Because of if it is high capital, high effort, high risk, high cost, the likeliness of surviving is not high.
Yeah, and on a small,
On a
relatively small area of land.
small
Now,
area.
now,
And
if
you
you're-
can't do that.
Yeah, if you're still living in suburbia or a city, you might think that 12.5 acres, 5 hectares is a large area of land. But from traditional or more recent farming land holdings, it's considered tiny and unviable.
Yeah.
However,
and that's what my perception was. It was unviable.
yeah. However, if you apply the market gardening techniques or some of these smaller added value models, then you can certainly earn the income that is needed for the financial test. And some of these, if you like, these routes also will tick the box for the functional tests, which Alan can allude to. One of the areas is aquaponics, which is very interesting, very fascinating, and very regenerative method of producing both high value crops and fish. in a sort of circular environment, but it does need monitoring, which means you have to be there.
Yeah.
And that will tick the box. If you leave an aquaponics system for any length of time and there is a failure, which because it relies on pumps and then in some cases lighting, that could quite easily happen, then you will lose your whole crop. So it does need attention, which will then tick that box. And that's what we sort of hope to demonstrate, really.
Absolutely. So some of the areas you can get into which aren't typically traditional farming are microgreens, aquaponics, mushrooms. Mushrooms by far has worked out to be the most profitable for the lowest amount of space needed and actual ongoing effort. Because once you've figured out your process and your flow and exactly which kind of mushrooms you want to grow,
it's just a matter of scale then.
It's a matter of scale.
Yeah, rinse and repeat.
The maths that I did on the design for the mushroom farm that I'm going to build out in full scale is a space that works out about 10 meters by 10 meters.
Good size.
And that can generate anywhere between 60 and 80 grand a year by itself.
Turnover or profit?
That is turnover, but your margins on mushrooms are really, really high.
Yeah.
It's over 50%.
Yeah.
And if you've got a local market, then all the better. But they're easily posted, aren't they? If you can build up a
Very easily posted.
a network.
And building out your customer base actually benefits you if they're close to you. So every cafe, every gastropub, every restaurant, every sandwich maker, if you really want to, you can go to a wholesale distributor and they'll buy everything from you, it'll be at a massive discount, but you really can. So per bloom of mushroom, if we're looking at oyster mushrooms at this point in time,
blue or pink oyster.
Yeah, you could make, roughly speaking, about 4 to 5 pounds per bloom. But in a space that's 10 meters by 10 meters, you can have 100, 130 blooms. I'm just trying to use terminology that's easy for people to understand. So a bloom would be probably about the size of my hand, if not bigger. And that's really, really easy to do. And the turnaround is 18 to 22 days per harvest. Once you've built out your system and your whole flow of how you work, it's actually very, very little effort. It takes the initial process, start to finish, is about 2.5 hours worth of work all in. And the rest of the time, all you're doing is going in to check, maybe spraying some water. If you've got an automatic fogger, you don't even need to do that. So you spend 2.5 hours at the beginning of your cycle for this particular crop. And then after that, it's every 2 days you check, maybe you spray it unless you have a fogger, and you're just looking at it. So you go in, have a look. How's it doing? Is it blooming? Or is there fungus on there? And that's pretty much all you need to check for, essentially. And then after 10 to 15 days, it starts to sprout.
Yeah.
And then all you're doing after that is checking when's the optimum time for me to harvest.
Yeah.
That's literally all you're doing.
How many blooms can you get from one, I don't know what you call it.
Just the bucket.
Yeah.
One bucket.
If
So
you're breeding like
I would recommend buckets because they're more sustainable because they're usable. Some people use plastic bags. But at the end of using the plastic bags, you have to throw them away, which generates waste that isn't easily recyclable.
So you're talking about those 5-gallon bucket, white bucket.
Yeah. So they're easily reusable. Yeah. Per bucket, you can easily, let's say you get, what size buckets have I got? 10 litres. So they're about that big.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
16 blooms, 16 to 20 blooms a bucket,
You can.
I'd say.
Wow.
Probably a little bit more. Because it's per hole, right? Per hole in
Yeah.
the bucket is a bloom.
You probably wouldn't get that many, would you?
Not every hole would definitely produce. If you put 16 holes in, you probably get 10.
That's about right. Yeah.
You probably get 10 actually coming out and growing into a hand, so to speak. I'm a visual guy. And each one of those hands is worth £4 to £5.
Good
Like
lad.
to say £4 to £5. Not 45. I wish. Maybe if you grow a lion's mane. Maybe.
Lion's mane, turkey tail.
Yeah, but it's actually really, really simple and really easy. But so many people don't know this.
Yeah.
Because when I started, I thought growing mushrooms was a mystical art.
Yeah.
I thought I needed to do some real studying and, you know, do massive research and create this perfectly scientifically
environment,
super clean. It was like,
play the harp to them.
No, I did it in my bathtub. The first time, I kid you not.
Yeah.
I poured hot water into a bag of straw. In my bathtub.
Love that.
And left it there overnight.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I crumbled the mycelium over it, mixed it with my hands, put it in a bucket, and walked away.
That was it.
And left it for 3-4 days. No, it was longer. Yeah, first 3-4 days, left it, took a peek, saw the mycelium was like taking it over. It looks like a spider's web or like ice is taking over or frost is taking over. I was like, fine, we get in there. Left it another 4 or 5 days, came back, checked it again, fully snowed over. I was like, this is going really well. I've done nothing. And then after that, I put it in my living room. My living room is in my attic. So I put it in the corner of the room where it was bright, but no direct sunlight hit it. And forgot about it. And then every couple of days, I was like, oh yeah, I'm growing mushrooms. So go and I'll check. It's like, yeah, I should spray a bit of water, squirt, 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 go back to watching Netflix. That was it.
It's just too much hard work. So the plan is to amplify that up into 10 metres by 10 metres?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And my first bloom was actually slower than I thought it was. So I kept checking it every 2 or 3 days. And eventually, I think it was day 19, it started to like sprout out properly.
Right.
I was like, oh snap, here we go.
Yeah.
And then at that point, again, I went back to checking it every 2 days.
Yeah.
Around about day 26, I got my first like set of sprouts come out.
That's when it really kicks off, isn't it? Because it goes from here to there and really kicks off.
This is no exaggeration. It doubles in size every 24 hours. It grows by 100% every 24 hours from that point.
Yeah.
And that's when I was checking it every day.
That's the payback.
In the morning before going to do my work activities. And it was on day, I can't remember what, I think it was day 26 or something like that. I was like, right, let's harvest it today.
Yeah.
Let's cook it right now. And I grew pink oyster mushrooms.
Job done.
Yeah. And then I forgot you get a second flush out of it. So I just left it there. I thought, let's see how it goes. It might work, it might happen. And then I checked 5 days after, thought, nah, nothing's happening here. Left it. My wife on day 8 goes, you know, you still got the mushroom bucket there. And you know it's growing again. I was like, no way. I was like, when I checked it again, and lo and behold, it was. And at this point, I got lazy because I was just, well, not lazy.
At that point, you got lazy. You haven't done anything for weeks.
I got distracted and moved on to other stuff. Yeah. So I hadn't checked it in 5 days.
Yeah.
So I looked at it again. I was like, oh snap, this is really going for it. But then I had a contract where I had to be away for like 3-4 days. So I just left it with the business like, yeah, it's going to keep growing. So at some point, they're just going to have to like harvest it.
Yeah,
like,
eat it.
I don't know what to do. Like, just twist and pop. And that's it. It's harvested. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's it. And there we go.
And that was it.
Yep.
So had you, here's a question for you. Had you considered actually capturing some of the spores and repopulating, you know, is that something that you...
I did, But that sounded like big maths to me.
Oh, right.
And I was just like,
He's overworked right now. He's just too busy.
but the actual, what do you call it? The spores,
The inoculum, the
yeah,
spores. Yeah.
super cheap.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I need to add big maths to my life
Yeah,
when there's
yeah.
£2.50 a packet?
Yeah.
So I'd rather scale up on £2.50 a packet
Yeah.
and buy my time back
Yeah.
and not have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. No, good idea.
Yeah,
And then once you've built your customer base, then you can just do that.
Exactly.
Scale that up.
exactly.
So theoretically, a 10 by 10, you were saying turnover of 80,
yeah,
50% profit margin. So we're saying 40%, 40 grand net profit
yeah, easily.
on around about 2.5 hours a week
Yep.
for
That's about
inoculating.
$50,000 if you're in America by.
Inoculating,
Yeah.
you'll be inoculating every week.
Yeah,
won't
yeah,
you,
yeah. So
per
yeah,
harvest.
that's it. So
So you'll be inoculating every week, so
Yeah.
2.5 hours a week.
Mhm.
Maybe, let's be generous and say half an hour a day checking them, singing to them,
over half an hour,
singing and
3 minutes.
spraying and
Dancing.
dancing and praying.
No, it's all of 3 minutes.
Well,
Because
not going to say any jokes here about your lovemaking.
In the space of 3 minutes, you can walk.
Yeah, you could.
You can walk down several aisles
Yeah,
and just looking.
yeah.
And if you need to spray, you've got the spray gun in your hand. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
And this is the thing that blew my mind.
Yeah,
It just sounds too easy.
it does. It does. The instructions I got when I first did mushrooms was on one side of an A4 sheet, and it didn't even fill the page.
Yeah,
So that's mushroom farming. One side of an
one
A4
side.
sheet.
Yeah.
What,
So you need some
10
shells.
by 10.
You need some shells.
Yeah.
You don't really. They don't need light, do they?
Not actual real
Until
life,
they're
no.
blooming.
Yeah.
It seemed like temperature impacted mine, but that
It
depends,
depends on the
your 10
strain.
by 10.
Yeah, it depends on the strain of mushrooms you want to grow. My house is particularly warm. Melanin, born in Nico. So I went for oyster mushrooms, which like the heat. They like it between
Perfect.
16 and 20 degrees,
Yeah.
roughly.
That's roasting. I'm sitting there in my pants like that. It's too hot.
Oh, in 16 degrees.
16 degrees, yeah.
I'm 24 degrees.
But yeah, and if you're at a cooler temperature, because the next experiment I want to do is see if I can grow blue oyster mushroom, which likes the cold,
Right.
outdoors.
Okay. Interesting.
And
Let's roll with that test.
yeah,
But that hits our pathway, right? It's
Yeah.
low effort, high yield,
yeah,
because with that 40k profit per year, that gets you over the financial test. Now that you do have challenges to face,
yeah,
which is obviously the last mile, as the commerce world, from harvesting it to getting into customers' hands, you've got to solve that piece at volume.
yeah.
Okay, so that's going to take you more time.
Yeah, that's the sales.
That's
and
sales,
and
marketing, but
distribution.
distribution. So we're going to have to
Yeah.
get that problem solved.
Yes.
Let's just say, pluck it out of the air, that's going to be taking 20% off of your margin.
Yeah, it could do. Looking at the volume at which typical customers would buy is also the key bit. So if you're selling to the end user. As in domestic families who just want it for their meals, it's going to be in smaller units.
Yeah.
You're pretty much going to sell 500 gram punnets at a time, which is a box maybe about that big.
Yeah.
But if you're selling to restaurants and cafes, they're going to take a larger volume off you.
Take a tray, aren't they?
Yeah. So that piece we're going to solve.
Yeah.
Sounds
Absolutely.
all right, doesn't it?
But again, it depends on the size of the restaurant.
Yeah. That people have done it before, so we can easily replicate that.
And restaurants, we haven't really started on this area yet, but let's face it, they want food with a provenance.
Yeah.
They want food that's organic,
Yeah.
not tainted by pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and fertilizers. They want stuff that's clean. And if they're local, you can even invite them to come and see it, can't you? And they've then got a story to tell their customers. If you're running a restaurant or a bar, pub, you're
Yeah.
trying to sell you're not just selling some food. It's not a commodity. You're selling an experience there on the night, but that can extend to the source of your suppliers. And especially in the current world that we live in, there is ever more desire for that sort of connection. The more we become disconnected, the more desire there is for connection.
Yeah,
And
funny
goes
that.
to- yeah,
Funny that.
that goes to food as well. And I think, you know, the local low air miles, you know, you're ticking all the boxes that we're being, if you like, propagandized into accepting.
Really low carbon emissions.
So low carbon emissions, you know, and if you could get a source of organic straw, which there are suppliers who do that, then you know that even the substrate that the mushrooms are growing on is completely free of any sides, anything with poisons in it.
And it's all compostable at the end.
All compostable.
Just wash your buckets out and start again.
Yeah, great. In fact, you inspired me because great source of, like you say, compost, isn't it? Mushroom compost.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So that's mushrooms. Another one of my favourites, which is actually the first one that I ever did, was microgreens.
Yeah,
Yes,
this is crazy. This has
microgreens.
blown my mind.
We love them. I should have bought some today, shouldn't I?
Yeah. And again, I thought it was going to be difficult. I thought it was going to be complicated. I paid for a course.
Good.
I can't remember how much I paid for the course. It might have been $100 or something like that. But it was a fantastic course by a lady named Amy, I believe. She's up in Sheffield. But really comprehensive video
Let's
course.
get her on the podcast.
Let's get her on.
Yeah.
Like, because her course was actually fantastic. Like, when you're going through, you actually feel like you know her at the end of it.
Good.
But she went through every single bit of details. This is how you prep. This is where you buy the kit. These are the trays that I like. This is why I like these trays. Here's a link to go buy it. These are the shells that I like. This is what you need for humidity and a dehumidifier. This is literally everything I use to run my business. I believe she makes 80k a year in the size of a garage that fits a car.
So just picking up a couple of those concepts there. All of those questions, you're saying, like, not questions, all of these solutions that you was pointing to just there.
Yeah.
You know, people at home, you're opening up all of those things. How do I do this? Where do I go this? What do I do this? And that's exactly what I was doing. How do I look after this sheep? How do I help them when they're ill?
Yeah.
What vaccines do they need? You know, how do you do this? How do you do that? So if, you know, a famous value that we live by, just copy the people that are already doing it.
Copy the strategies of successful people. You don't need to be clever. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be creative or inventive. Just copy. You don't have to copy what they do. You copy their strategies, and they'll lay their strategies out for you, as we're hoping to do throughout this series. You know, over time.
So all of those, because as soon as you were saying that, I was like, what would you do? You know, what racks are they? What temperature? What light is it? Is it normal light, warm light, white light? How many watts do I need? You know, or do I need extra solar panels because of is that my my primary thing? What's the backup solution? What happens if they don't get any light? All of those questions.
And one of the great things about microgreens in particular is that you can have fun with experimentation and you can learn on the job because the life cycle is so short, or the cycle from planting to harvest. In normal farming, you might be planting in, well, for example, I've done a garlic, quite a large garlic plantation, and we plant in October, we harvest in July. You're talking 9 months. You know, something goes wrong halfway through in month 8, and it's like, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't replant until October because of the way they grow. Microgreens you can plant throughout the year. I particularly like peas, sprouting peas. You plant them on a Monday, you can be harvesting within 5 days, 5 to 7 days certainly, and then you can get 2 or sometimes 3 even successive harvests out of the same crop. If you don't cut them right down to the base, you leave an inch. We can talk a bit more about that in a moment. But if it goes wrong after 3 days, for some reason, because you're a beginner and you've overwatered them or underwatered them, let them go dry, doesn't matter. Start again. You're only 3 days in. You're not 9 months in or 7 months in.
It's not going to break the bank.
License to test is really good. License to test.
That's it. So the first run I had, I tried 3 different plants.
What did you do?
I started with radishes.
Nice.
Pea and coriander.
Coriander. I've struggled with coriander. I've tried that.
My coriander failed miserably the first time round.
Ah, so you tested?
Maybe I'm not hot enough.
But radish just went. Like, it needed almost nothing from me. I use no additional lighting. It was literally just in the middle of my dining table in the kitchen. I've got bay windows that are sort of near it. That is it.
When you first said radishes, when you introduced me to microgreens, I was like, well, those little red things, how are you going to grow them? Surely you need soil, surely you need to be outside, surely you need everything along those lines. But it's not actually
You're eating the shoots.
it's actually the shoots.
Yeah.
So you don't get anywhere near the vegetable piece.
No.
And that's the whole difference with microgreens.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you actually enjoy the taste of them?
I do like them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I do
what
like
they
them.
like, peppery?
But I did like peas. Yes, they're peppery. Yeah.
I love the peppery bits.
But I didn't like pea shoots.
Didn't you?
No, I thought I would.
I absolutely love pea shoots, but a few people I've given them to have sort of like turned their nose up, and I'm like, is it something?
That's the bit of salad you push aside.
Yeah, I think they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess but there's so many different things. You can do things like amaranth
many,
and mustard, and you know,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things you can try and find the ones that you like. You know, and arrange, maybe if you're doing it for customers, do a range, take them to the customers, let them try and see which ones they like, and then say you'll grow them to order.
I think my next thing is trying to do a mixed salad bag, because in my household,
microgreens?
Yeah. We spend easily £6 or £7 a week on greens. We don't need to. I can grow 4 trays, and a tray is that long by that deep. That's way too much.
Yeah.
One tray alone.
You could grow that in a week, couldn't you?
Yeah. You can grow that in a week. And if the shelf life was long enough, if it could last a month, it would take us a month to eat one tray. That's how much greens are on there. And again, pesticide free, herbicide free, fungicide free.
No fertilizer.
No fertilizer. Actually, not even acid rain, because you don't need to grow it outside.
And one of the other things is that plants, many of these leafy greens, lose about 95% of their phytonutrients within 48 hours of being cut.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different if you've got something like a potato or a root or even a seed, because it's still alive, even though it might be dry or whatever, it's still alive.
Yeah.
Whereas once you cut a lettuce or a radish or a pea sprout, it's starting to die. You've disconnected it from the roots. But if you're cutting it, putting it on your plate and eating it within 30 seconds or a minute, it's still full of live phytonutrients. And
how long do those phytonutrients last?
about 48 hours.
48
it
hours.
Depends on the temperature, and there's all sorts of things, the type of plant, but about 48 hours. Basically, once the plant is in its wilting stage, it's basically dying.
Got it.
So the nutrients and it's dying because it hasn't got live access to the live nutrients. They're not being moved up and down the plant through the xylem, the tubes that keep the plant alive. You've basically chopped it. It's like your arm. You know, you can amputate a part of a body and then sew it back on again.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, you leave it 48 hours, you're not going to be sewing that finger back on.
Yeah.
You know.
So I was just sort of like asking that question on behalf of the restaurant piece, because obviously the biggest challenge from the mushrooms was that last mile and getting it to the restaurants and everything along those lines.
But you can deliver the tray to the restaurant, so you can deliver the living tray, and they can cut it.
Yeah.
So when they're delivering it to their customers, they can say to their customers, this is still alive.
Yeah.
They can. You can educate them and tell them, because some of them don't know. A lot of these chefs, they know what is good food, they know about flavours, but they don't always know the science behind it. And it's not a lot of science. It's just, this is alive.
Yeah.
Live food is good for you. When it comes to vegetables, dead vegetables are not good for you because they're rot. If they're dying, the bacteria start. You know, the bacteria, necrophilic bacteria that eat dead matter are starting to work on it.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to be consuming. You want to be consuming live, vibrant, with food that is energy and life-giving. And that's what they can give to their customers.
That's right.
And if they're buying it from a wholesaler and it's been sitting in a fridge for 2 weeks, you know,
well, where's it come from?
Exactly.
Yeah,
where's it come from?
Where's
What
it
have they sprayed on it?
What have they sprayed on it? What chemicals are on it?
Yeah.
What is it? You know, it might look live, but it isn't. Which is why that stuff, as soon as you take it out of the fridge, it wilts within minutes because it's dead.
Yeah.
It might look alive, but it's actually dead. So even if they eat it, they're not getting the nutrients. And what you'll tend to find is that people who start to consume, particularly microgreens, what you'll find is if you've got a decent sized portion of microgreens on your dinner plate, within a couple of days, the volume of food that you need to eat reduces significantly.
Why is that?
Because you're getting the nutrients. The reason people, if you think about obesity.
So a craving piece, are you talking about? So it's your natural body going, I need that.
Yeah, what your body, so for example, there might be, you might need, right now, you might be lacking boron or molybdenum or one of these trace elements. Or some phytonutrient that I can't pronounce the name of, right? Your brain knows you need it. It goes, if we don't get this quick in the next week or so, we're going to start to get ill. So your brain only knows how to, it doesn't know how to tell you to go and find boron, but it knows how to make you hungry. So it sends, and it's not just your brain, it's the microorganisms in your gut that are going, oh, we're hungry, we need food, we need this mineral to keep alive. So they send a signal up to the brain. The brain goes, oh, let's tell Scotty I'm hungry. So Scotty goes out, and in the old days, you'd either go out hunting or you'd go out browsing in a bush for whatever you could get. And you would eat whatever you came across. And back in the day, it would have been alive, or you'd have killed it, and it would have recently been alive, and you wouldn't have had any way to store it, so you'd have eaten it fresh. And you would have got your nutrients, and you'd have been fine. Whereas now, what we do is we feel hungry, so we go to the store, we buy something wrapped up in plastic that was made, covered in chemicals and poisons. It was packaged probably a year and a half ago. It's completely dead, and all it has got is the carbohydrates, the salts and the sugars, plus a load of preservatives. You swallow it, the preservatives in it that keep it from rotting, then go into your body, and those preservatives, what is their job? Their job is to kill bacteria. So you're now consuming a dose of chemicals that are designed to kill bacteria, and they do a good job because you're not getting E. coli from eating that food. But what they're doing is they're going into your stomach and killing your microbiota. And that is, that is one of the things that people don't realise. And at the same time, you're not getting your boron or molybdenum that you needed in the first place. So you eat the meal, and your brain goes, I'm still hungry. So what do? You go and buy some more, and you eat some more of empty carbohydrates. And that's why you walk around countries like America and UK, and you see so many people who are suffering from the symptom we see as obesity, but the obesity is a symptom of malnutrition. So it's not that they've got so much food that they're overweight. It's because they're in a cycle of eating empty carbohydrates. The body converts carbohydrates to sugar. And if you've got enough sugar, as in base energy, for them, basically in each cell you have a thing called mitochondria that basically effectively is the engine of the cell. Well, if that's got enough sugar to do its job, the cell then goes, I don't need any more sugar. So it doesn't let the sugar into the cell. So you get insulin, and then you get this problem with insulin resistance. So the body then says, well, what can I do with the sugar? I'll convert it to fat. And that's what happens. And you go round and round and round that cycle, and people get fatter and fatter and fatter. And often it's because of an upset in their microbiome, which is caused by the biology of the food that they're eating. And it's a cycle that people don't know. They just don't have the knowledge that they only have to eat a little bit of fresh, natural food. It's covered in bacteria. And it's not got the biocides on it to stop that bacteria keeping you healthy.
So it's really kind of interesting, isn't it? Because of we're setting up this farm business, and our biggest challenge is this last mile. Getting this fresh produce to the people. So, that's our problem to solve, and hopefully we'll, explore multiple different strategies and tactics and share it with everybody.
But that's what a plate of live microgreens does, doesn't it?
And the audience actually really need what we're producing.
Which a massive industrial farm is definitely not producing. They even terminate the production of, sorry, I'm just on this rant, but I've said it before, but they terminate, they use glyphosate.
Yes.
You've heard of it, Roundup. They use it to terminate wheat and barley and cereal crops. So what that means is they spray a herbicide on 3 or 4 days onto the crop before they harvest it. And that herbicide desiccates the crop, actually makes it drier, kills it off. There's a thing called, you can look it up, it's called a shikimate pathway. It's a weird thing, but it's bacteria and plants have it in their physiology, humans don't. So the argument is glyphosate is not bad for humans because we don't have that enzymatic pathway in our system. But we are a symbiotic organism, and we're full of bacteria and fungi that do our digestion for us. So if you then swallow food that contains glyphosate, because it's been sprayed on just before harvest, and it's gone on that lovely barley that is used in the beer that you're then drinking, or on that cereal cornflakes that was non-organic, so it's covered in glyphosate, you're absorbing this. Now, glyphosate, you've probably heard of it, it was developed as an antibiotic. That's what it was originally. Okay. And then it got converted to a herbicide. They found that it also had herbicide effects, and that became its big use. So they're spraying antibiotics on these fields wholesale throughout the year to clear fields, to kill weeds. But the poisoning, that's why the soils are dead, because they're covered with biotic life. That's what the life of the soil is.
It's a travesty, it really is.
It's shocking.
It is shocking.
Yeah.
And, the brain does boggle.
Yeah.
But if we circle it back to, creating not just the demand in our customers, but their need.
Yeah,
they need this, right? Yeah. So, us as smallholders, we have a duty to make it as convenient as possible, and this is that last mile piece. All right, so we should take it upon ourselves as our duty to educate people, yes, not to preach, but to educate them, all right? Get our microgreens, get our nutrient-rich mushrooms and our super greens in front of them, as convenient as standing in the supermarket thing with all of the bits that are there to design for you to buy. As convenient as going to get a bag of coffee. As convenient as going to get a loaf of bread. Okay?
Because one thing talking about it, but the other thing, you're right, we need to make it available.
That's right.
And that decentralised model of hundreds of thousands of smallholders in local areas serving their local customers should be encouraged by local authorities and governments.
Massively.
Rather than encouraging massive, huge farms. I'm not saying they should discourage big farms. I'm saying they should put some... there's a place for them, of course there is. But there is also the need, like you say, to help people on a local basis.
Yes. And that turns me on. Yeah. That really does.
Absolutely.
So if we can get our mushrooms and our microgreens, we've got a few examples. Because you did radish, peas, and coriander.
Coriander, I succeeded the second time round.
Oh, how did you do that?
I actually grew it outside.
Yeah, it likes to be colder.
Interesting.
Grew it outside. Literally on a table in my back garden.
Right, interesting. Yeah. See, you challenged me a couple of days ago to do it with my kids. So a couple of days ago we started with broccoli and my brain went, how am I going to get that broccoli?
Yeah, but you're only after.
But these little broccoli leaves, they're like really rich green.
Have they come up already?
They've started to germinate already. Yeah, nice. Day one. You saw little white specks everywhere. Yeah, amazing, showed the kids straight away.
The kids love it because that time scale for them.
It was instant.
Like they can't. Normal planting something in the garden, they don't sit for 2 months.
My boy didn't care. He was like, oh right, okay, whatever. He went shooting off in his new skates. He got some skates for Christmas. He just went, all right, Dad, all right. But my little girl, she was like, wow, wow, and all these little white specks. So we did broccoli,
cabbage, do you?
Red cabbage, and they look fantastic on the picture. So they've got that, because I sold that to my little girl because they were like this reddy, purpley, pinky leaf. And I tried to sell it to Harry because on the packet it said that it's great for sandwiches. And because he is chief taster apprentice after myself, right? Where you're saying your brain's always telling you you're hungry. I'm like, I must need microbes all the time because my brain's always telling me I'm hungry. That hasn't kicked off as yet, but even on the packaging, it was in a sandwich. It was in a roll, okay? Yeah. And my son's favourite sandwich is a lettuce sandwich.
Wow.
We send him to school with a lettuce sandwich, all right, because he likes the crunch of the lettuce. Okay, he really likes a lettuce sandwich, and I said, look, we'll replace them with these, and he was like, whatever. He'll test them when they grow. But so the red cabbage in there. But again, if we can get that into the cafes, into the local little cafes, replace your lettuce that's from Spain and that's a week old already, with our red cabbage. Look how much colour and flavour that you'll be able to put into your sandwiches. Anyway, so that's a little anecdote for that one. And then we've got mustard, and we've got, what was the last one? I can't remember, but we kicked off 2 days ago. Some of them were already thing.
Yeah.
But
The cycle is 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
So for a startup business, I've been an entrepreneur all my life.
Yeah, you could be.
For a startup business, low cost,
product.
low effort,
Yeah.
product in 7 days, and the challenge I've got to solve is that last mile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
What a great business.
Yeah.
And everybody has to eat.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a choice in
not
it.
optional.
Everybody
Yeah.
has to eat. So there's quite a few customers out there, potentially.
Well, yeah, but you know, if you present them with like a cheese and ham panini or a microgreen sandwich, what are they going to go with?
Yeah, but you're selling to the guy who's making the cheese and ham panini.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, or
I
you could
get that.
bake your bread and do all the
I
rest of
get
it, do the
that.
whole thing.
I get that.
Yeah.
So there's an education piece, there's a piece of getting it in people's hands and
Yeah.
testing it and trialing it. You know, they're not bland.
No, they're really not.
They add
Yeah.
texture.
Yeah.
It's the
Well, also-
peppers and the nutrients and,
And also,
everything along those lines.
let's be honest, fear is, I mean, from a sales point of view, fear is, no one goes out and goes, oh, I think I'll buy some life assurance today. But if someone says to you, how would you, they say to your wife with you in the room, who's going to look after the kids when the old man passes away, you know?
Yeah.
You know, how are you going to fund them off to university, etc.? That's what sells life assurance, the fear of death, right?
Yeah.
Same with health insurance. So I'm not suggesting that we suddenly turn into life insurance salespeople, but the point is, most people have no idea that their food is sprayed with poisons.
Yeah.
They don't know. People drink wine, oh, look at me, I'm very healthy, I go to the gym, I do this, and I drink a bottle of, you know, wine's good for you.
Yeah.
How much wine is sold that's organic? Do you know they spray it after they harvest it
Yeah.
with fungicides? The clue is in the word, as I said it before, CIDES, the Greek for death. You know, it's sprayed on the food. We're eating it. Oh, but it's such a low dose. It doesn't really affect humans. Well, low dose over a long period of time, you know, that's what it's all
Get
about.
it.
So
Get
That's
it. I think there's a carrot and a stick.
Yeah.
Because of obviously the produce has still got to taste nice. People still got to
yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
People still going to want the value.
Yeah.
But as you say, local, environmentally friendly, no pesticides, no fungicides.
let food be your medicine. Let medicine be your
Your
food. The
food.
properties. You know, it's
That's the message that we got to go. You know, that's nice and simple. And then it's our job to get it into the hands of the consumers, and that's the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, for that. If I've got my mushrooms,
you got your
got my
microgreens.
microgreens,
Yeah.
what else is on your recipe for success?
Oh, there's aquaponics.
Tell us about it.
We don't have enough time to go as deep into
You'll have to
aquaponics.
watch the next episode.
Are we done?
Yeah, just about.
Shall we come back to that one on the next
Yeah,
episode?
let's come back to that on the next episode.
Separate one.
Fundamentally, aquaponics is the process of building a cyclical system where you have fish in one tank and the fish waste or the wee and poo from the fish is actually really nutritious for plants. So if you pump that into plant beds, plants absorb all the goodness, purify the water, and you send that back into the fish tanks.
Fantastic.
It's a beautiful system.
Beautiful
So you
system.
raise fish and raise plants.
So then you sell the fish and sell the plants
Exactly.
for the financial reward that we're talking about.
Exactly.
And it could be ornamental fish. You don't have to use
Yeah,
fish that you're going to eat, like
yeah.
trout or whatever,
Yeah.
or tilapia. You can use goldfish and sell the goldfish. Plenty of people want goldfish in
Yeah,
aquariums or whatever.
exactly.
You know,
Okay.
Yeah, options are there. But we'll get deeper into that on the next episode. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we hope we have helped you take a step towards growing your own freedom. Until next time, viva la revolution.
Viva la revolution!